friends over bacon and eggs. We'll share a laugh and a story and even a wish on the breakfast dish. Bop, 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 bop.
Is that my cue? Hi, I'm Dave. Wow, what a thrill to be here. Hashtag blessed.
Can we just get him to introduce the podcast?
Hi, I'm Dave Kelly. It's really good to be here.
You introduce us, Dave. Introduce us and tell everybody what our podcast is about and how it was created.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this amazing podcast. What it is essentially is Karen Johnson Diamond sat down with her son and said, Griff, would you please make something of your life? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm just watching some Netflix. And she's like, if you don't do something, so help me God. And then he's like, fine. What do you want me to do, like a podcast? And she's like, yeah, you're going to do a podcast. And here we are.
And I took off my puka shell necklace and made something of myself.
Which is more than I've ever done. So good for you.
That's right.
Now you introduce it, Griffin. See if you can do any better than that.
I can't. I mean, I'm only a lonely teenager with a beanie on. What else? Video games, TikTok, a vape pen.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the breakfast dish. Griffin doesn't usually let me do the introduction. I'm so excited. My name is Karen Johnson Diamond, and I'm here with my son. Introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Dave. I'm Griffin. I'm a teenager. I'm Griffin Cork, and I'm the teen.
And we have this podcast, The Breakfast Dish, which was spawned by, birthed from.
Oh, don't say spawned by.
The Breakfast series, which is a photo series that I did on Facebook, which is basically about having breakfast with people and finding out who they are and what they're up to, and also telling you, the listeners across the world, what sort of digital, online, or social distance art you can experience in the upcoming weeks. How did I do, Griff?
I think you did great. I do have a question, though, is I can't tell at what point we stopped doing a bit and what point we actually started the show. So this is just a quick jump in to make sure that we're all recording properly.
I'm recording.
Hi, I'm Dave Kelly. It's really good to be here on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. That was a perfect cue. Mother, the other intro is that you do have to introduce our guest. If you could just do that.
Oh, right. Sorry. Thank you. I'm Karen Johnson Diamond, and I'm so excited to welcome a very special guest with us today. You may not know.
Hi, I'm Dave Kelly. Really good to be. Oh, sorry. Is
It's
that my
him.
cue?
No, people, you're
And
right.
it's like, just not quite my tempo. And back to ones. Here we go. Karen, go one more time.
Our excellent special guest today is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Kelly. Say it now, Dave.
I got really shy right there.
Yeah, fair enough. That was a foreboding intro. The man, the myth, the legend.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Griffin.
Hi, Dave.
So good to be here.
Oh, my God. You have me laughing so much, and we haven't even started yet.
It's the way it should be.
This is the most dynamic intro I think we've ever done, for sure. It really flips the stuff on its head.
Pretty dynamic guest.
Well, I like that you're saying that, and this is our 10th episode. So you've got hundreds to choose from of these amazing intros that we've done. But of the 10, this is the most dynamic. This is the first one not done in a funeral home. So therefore, it's going to be a little peppier than the other ones were, right?
So therefore, everyone's a little bit happy. There's no grandmothers crying. And also, this is our 11th take of this intro. So, we do have to pick the best one.
I hired a band. It's an oompa band. Here they come for intro number 12.
Nice.
We're not equipped for that. That'll be terrible. An oompa band? Yeah, ska.
If there's any music that I think goes with Dave Kelly, besides piano, because he has that one-man show called Dad's Piano, which is so beautiful, and guitar, because I know he plays guitar, is an oompa band. Look at Dave equals oompa band.
Right? That's me, Mr. And Mr. Pa.
Oompa, loompa, doompity-doo. Okay. So as we mentioned, Dave, this is a podcast called The Breakfast Dish, where we talk about things you're doing online or digital or socially distant, and why in the world do we have you on the show right now? Besides to bring up an oompa band, which truly I've never heard of, which really does show my teenage puka shell Xbox vibes that I'm putting out.
Mm-hmm.
You used to host a show before all the pandemics happened called Dave Kelly Live.
Mm-hmm. And guess what happened? Now, I don't know if you know this about the pandemic, but one of the things they came up with is they said it's not so good for big groups to get together.
Oh.
I actually haven't heard that.
Yeah, I didn't either. But apparently what that does is if you make your living in front of crowds, it really limits your ability to make a living.
Wow, yeah. I would suspect.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how I know this, but I would suspect if there's anybody that is any form of performing arts whatsoever, theater, film, that they might be completely unemployed.
Yeah.
I think this podcast is now going to be used as evidence in a courtroom where Dave just admitted he heard about the the health scare late in the pandemic. Oh yeah, I made a lot of people come to work. Oh no.
Do you know what I did that was stupid? I've done a lot of stupid things. I took a picture once. During the beginning of the pandemic, I'd take my kids for walks just to try to burn off some of their crazy energy by 7 a.m. So I did, and they were playing at the park, and they still had their pajamas on. So I posted a picture going, look at this, it's a pajama party in the playground. What I didn't realize is the day before is when they announced all playgrounds are now closed. Please do not take your children to the playground. So not only did I take my children to a playground, but I posted it on the webs. So
now I have a question. You being Dave Kelly, were you social media shamed, or did people give you the benefit of the doubt? Were they super nice to you and go, hey, Dave, maybe you haven't heard, or did they share it around with all sorts of swears?
The mayor, I think the mayor said, hey, dipshit,
Yeah.
I think is how his started.
That does make sense. That sounds like him.
He often does start like that.
It was a little bit of both. There was a few people saying, hey, not sure if you heard the news. There's a pandemic. And you're not supposed to be in playgrounds. Yeah, I didn't even need their shaming. I felt pretty ashamed of it. And then I was going to take it down, but I thought, wow.
It's too late now. Everyone knows.
Well, I think it's time that you get used to saying, don't you know who I think I am?
Don't you know who I wish I was?
I'm Dave Kelly, and these are my kids.
Don't you know who I pretend to want to be?
Don't you know who I plan to someday be?
Don't you know who I borrowed my immune system from? Superman.
I am a god.
All right, back to Griffin's question. What did you do with Dave Kelly Live? Is it by any chance online in some way, under some title different?
Yeah, like thematically a little bit different in a kind of a new format, but not really.
Sorta. Yeah, what we did is we took the crew of the show, sort of the skeleton crew. So Mandy Stobo, who's our resident visual artist, Russ Broom, who leads the Flat Whites, plays with the Flat Whites. I always feel bad saying he leads it. They're a collective, but he is the face of the Flat Whites on our show. And Jim Button, who's my announcer sidekick co-host pincushion. And we all four of us said, what if we just put on a show on Facebook or on the YouTubes and see what happens? So that's what we did. And we weren't sure how often to do it, so we started doing it every day, and that was fun. And it started to be a lot like breakfast television, which is something I did years ago, which was really fun. But also that's a very hungry beast, as you know, trying to come up with 10 or 11 or 12, or by the time we got to 70 of them, we're like, wow, we've done a lot of these. But they were fun to do, and we sort of did this online version every day till the end of June, with plans to come back later.
Maybe you've done more than I realized. Have you done just 70, or have you done more than that?
Well, we did it from March 16th till June, end of June. So whatever that is, every weekday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy, yeah, that is quite a bit.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 70 something. I forget what the exact final. I mean, it's not final. There'll be more, but yeah, that was it.
And how did it grow over those 70 days? How did it change?
Well, we were aware that we wanted it to not look like a bad web seminar or whatever, like a Zoom call or a Google Meets or anything. We just said, and so my brother Rob, who produces the live show, is a tech geek, and as is Mandy. So between the two of them, they figured out how to overlay art and titles and everything to make it look less like another Zoom meeting. And then we but the first few are embarrassing. Well, not embarrassing, but it was like I was on my phone and I was in a basement, and I'm still in a basement. However, I've got a camera that most of the time looks better, and a microphone that most of the time. Yeah, all of this stuff that we said, like, can we at least look a little less hack? And there was a certain part of it, as you guys know, there's a certain charm and understanding that you get with stuff that's a little bit more hack. But at a certain point, audiences are like, yeah, I spend all day on shitty Zoom calls. I don't need to do that again for this.
Right.
So we did want to give them more to talk with or look at.
No, you've got, I don't know, I call them Zoom boxes, but I shouldn't. You've got featured faces moving around the screen. You mentioned someone, Jason, is an editor, maybe? Did I get that name right?
Rob, my baby, my brother.
Or Jim Button?
No, on one of the other shows you were praising some amazing person. But I wondered, who is it Rob that's moving all of the faces around? And
Yes. Well, actually, and this is a secret or whatever you want, that's just FaceTime. So we just overlaid stuff onto FaceTime. So as long as people were using Macs, it was fine. But then if you say sometimes the show looks a lot more clean and square and sometimes things move, they moved if all of our guests were iPhone or Mac people. But then if they weren't and we needed to do something else, then we did Zoom.
Interesting.
Which is a lot more stable.
I watched on my PC because I'm not sure if you're aware, but my husband and Griffin's father will not allow us to have any Apple products in the house whatsoever. He's very anti-Apple. And I thought it looked very slick.
Very surprisingly
Anti-Apple.
like vehemently, who knew that a man could have this much passion about electronics?
So tell us what happens on the show.
Well, I'd rather talk about your marriage and say, what's with the anti-Mac stuff going on? Because that seems a little...
Yeah, let's really dig into this.
Yeah.
Well, we've been married now nearly 26 years. In September, next month, it'll be 26 years. And I once owned an iPad and he bought it for me. And the only reason he bought it for me is so that he could write a tech article about how user unfriendly they were. So Griffin, we're never, ever getting sponsorship from Apple or Mac.
That makes sense. Yeah, he would have debates with my Apple-loving friends in high school. My father would sit down at the kitchen counter with my friend. The big one was Josh Franklin. Josh Franklin was a big Apple guy, but he was an intelligent 16-year-old. He would get into heated debates with my dad about user interface and how user-friendly they were.
First thing he asked the girls that Griffin brought home, Mac or PC?
And sorry, what was the first question you asked them, Mother?
Yeah.
What is it? Oh.
Yeah, what's the first question you remember asking one of my first girlfriends?
I can't remember. Probably if they like Neil Diamond.
That's really?
Or do you want to see some pictures of young naked Griffin?
What?
Or would you like to see some of my scars? A lot of kids love that when they can see their friend's mom's scars.
That's right. A lot. I never thought the phrase "young naked Griffin" would ever happen on the show, and we were really, so far we were 9 for 9, and now this happens.
We do what we can.
We have Dave Kelly on, and everything goes to hell.
Yeah.
It's Russell Broom's next band.
Yes.
Young Naked Griffin.
That's good. Okay.
Okay, tell me more about the show. Tell our listeners more about the show, because what if they are here on day, whatever it is now, 7,004, and they haven't watched a Dave Kelly in the Neighborhood
Well,
yet?
it is unlikely that any of our listeners don't also know Dave Kelly.
You never know.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I always start, there's a friend of ours who was a guest on Breakfast Television, and she would always introduce herself every show. When she'd come into the studio, she'd go, "Hi, and she'd say her name. And she'd say, "I know you know me. I also know you meet a lot of people. And I don't want to be the one person that you're sitting there going, oh, what's her name? What's her name? What's her name?" So a decade later, she still says her name. And you know what? I always appreciated it because it's easy. It's a really smart, it's a good move. So I always assume nobody knows me, and I'm often proven right.
Let me tell you, for the people that don't know Dave Kelly, let me give you a little history. Dave Kelly is about 30, or when I first met him, maybe he was about 22, and he's never aged, swear to God. And I met him because he was teaching junior high at the school where my younger brother went to school. So he was my younger brother's, I think, social studies teacher.
Language arts.
What?
Language arts.
Yeah, okay. So
Language
we're
arts.
actually going to go back to ones on this whole podcast. If we could go on the intro
Okay.
again, we
Language arts.
cannot
Back to
mess up
ones.
that subject. So, yeah.
Okay. Either way,
Yes.
that's how I met Dave. And then I did a play with a partner of his, and then he turned into a Calgarian, and then he was doing breakfast TV, and I could say I knew him.
He cocooned into a Calgarian. He morphed.
Were you always a Calgarian?
No, I was in Edmonton where my brother was. I was in Sherwood Park where my brother was.
So then when did you move?
I came here in 93.
Ah,
When did you come here?
97.
I beat you to Calgary?
Yeah.
Wow.
I came here to do Hank Williams, and while I was doing Hank Williams during Stampede at ATP, I was at the where do we all stay at that hotel?
Oh, yeah.
ATP and every
Regency? No.
Regency
Yeah.
Suites, and at the Regency Suites was in the same building were the people who were building A Channel, and so I met him in the lobby, and that's how I ended up on breakfast television.
Whoa.
That's an excellent story.
That's really cool.
You never know who you're gonna meet.
That's like the Calgary version of getting discovered in the LA coffee shop is the Regency Suites lobby.
That's crazy.
So what did you do? Just walk up to them in the lobby and go, listen to my TV voice. Hi, good morning.
How's everybody? Well, actually, I was in Edmonton at the time doing L&J News was a show. I was doing educational TV.
Oh, yeah.
And we did it all year, and then they put reruns on in the summer. So when I met in the lot, and of course, being in the TV game, I knew there was a station coming up because a lot of people are like, oh, new job. So it wasn't like I was completely unaware, but I had a gig. And then when we were in the lobby, you just run into people and like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? So we got to talking, and I said, this is what I do. I'm here doing a show, but normally I'm a TV guy. And they said, do you have any demo reel? And I said, I'm on reruns. Check me out at 6:00 tonight.
Whoa.
So I didn't even, they just watched me that night. And then they were like, you should do our breakfast show.
That's a pretty baller thing to say. Like, well, you can actually see me at 6 p.m. tonight. I also imagined you going down to the Regency Suites lobby and getting whatever, an orange and a muffin and a glass of orange juice, and go, this breakfast is so good. It should be on TV, and then just side-eye the whole crew at the table. What a good idea I just had. I'm a founder, even.
Anyway, back to my theater job. Yeah, so that's how it all started.
Can Mummy brag that Griffin used to host a television show for NUTV as well? So
That's right.
can you go spend some time at the Regency, please, buddy?
Go to the Reg.
Gotta go hang out at the Reg. Yo, you guys hitting up the Reg tonight? Yo, I heard Snoop Dogg's gonna be at the Reg.
It's going to be so sweet.
The Reg.
We're ripping it up Reg style. I like that Griffin thinks that the Reg has orange juice and muffins in the lobby. You would be, just as long as there's not a fist fight in the lobby, that's all you're
Right.
lucky for. But yes.
Wait,
Yeah.
is that the Regency on like 4th and 7th or
Yeah.
whatever?
Hey,
Okay, so
yeah.
I was dating a girl who was doing a show that toured to Calgary, and they also stayed in the Regency, which is where I got my orange juice, Dave Kelly. I got proof.
You speak from experience.
Wow.
Let's just
Good
say
on ya.
thank you very much to the Regency for being a theater sponsor for as many years as they have been, because they've been a partner, I think, of many theaters.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to call out the Regency for not introducing me to more producers. So
Oh.
yeah, they got to pick up some slack on that.
Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
So now is the online version of Dave Kelly and Dave Kelly Friends in the Neighborhood, are those the same thing? Are those two subsections? Are they?
Well, no, they're the same. So yeah, when we decided to do Dave Kelly Live online, that we just called it In the Neighborhood, and we sort of thought we sort of based it on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in a loose,
totally.
in a loose way, because I was just impressed with how he managed, and we were aware that the COVID, and at the same time, especially then when Black Lives Matter took off, or when the Floyd died, and all of these things happened, that there was so much reason for anger and fear and aggression. And we realized, and I took to heart, and a lot of people have talked about it, when Mr. Rogers brought, was it the policeman that was the African American?
Mm-hmm.
And when he brought him on and washed, and they put their feet in the water, in the kiddie pool, how that was in the midst of massive fighting in the States around African American kids being allowed in swimming pools. And the pool owners were throwing extra chlorine and all kinds of chemicals into the pools because they wanted to push the African Canadian kids out, or American kids out of there. So his way of solving that wasn't to get on his show and rant and rave, but simply to share water with one of his regulars who happened to be Black. And so for us, we just thought there's got to be a calm, positive, kind way for us to deal with the crisis, for us to deal with issues, and try to be that. So we've always that was sort of the focus, which is kind of what DKL always was trying to be, was to say, can we be a positive, fun, wildly entertaining, but positive and fun show at the same time.
Right, yeah, and you definitely see those themes kind of continued in the show. And yeah, the Mr. Rogers theme is very the homage is definitely noticeable in terms of like the design and the
Mm-hmm.
like the just even the screen caps for the title screens, all like the smiles and the jumping and the very young looking like art, the art style of it. Is that Mandy as well?
Yes, all Mandy.
Gorgeous,
Yeah.
totally gorgeous.
Yeah.
So would you consider it like a Mr. Rogers that's like kind of aimed towards a younger generation, or is that just the homage of the art style?
That's more the style. Yeah, we didn't. It wasn't a kid show at all, or necessarily even. It was just us being us.
Yeah, totally.
And the truth is, if you said to anyone young Mr. Rogers, they'd all say, "Who's that?" So it wasn't like we were. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I was very close to not knowing who Mr. Rogers was.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was born 5 years earlier, I wouldn't know who Mr. Rogers was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch Mr. Rogers, and I'm extensively older than you are.
Yeah, I never watched it either. We didn't have TV, so I didn't watch any of it. So that was me.
So you're not alone, Griffin. Don't worry.
Don't you worry your little head.
Mommy and we can research Mr. Rogers together.
I was really hoping some of the mummy bit would, kind of die out as we brought Dave Kelly on the show.
Well, I don't know. He worked with my little brother. He taught my little brother.
Right.
He understands the nourishing of children. He has 2 kids himself, and he's working really hard to get them through this. And he calls himself Daddy.
I can see Dave shaking his head. No.
You know what? I'll admit it. If John and Tessa's school called right now and said, "Look, we think we've got the COVID thing under control. However, there's a lot of Ebola going around," I'd be like, "Yeah, I think I can risk it. I think we're pretty good with that. Let's give it a go."
Yeah, listen, we can. We got the school things figured out. It's kind of a crazy rule from the Alberta Health Services, though. We do need to call you Daddy whenever we call you. Is that? It's kind of a that's the government. It's not really us. So is that cool with you, Dave?
Are you still taking my kids for 6 hours a day? Then yes.
Get them out of here.
Yeah.
Tell me what they think of your online Dave Kelly
Oh, interesting.
and friends in the neighborhood, Mr. Rogers.
It's interesting that it's fun for they bought season tickets at Dave Kelly Live this past season. And
Wait a minute. Did they not get tickets?
You don't comp your own kids?
as a matter of fact, I bought season tickets.
There we go.
I took out my visa and bought them season tickets.
Okay,
But,
Daddy.
Well, if you want to hang out with Dad more, you got to save up your allowance, okay?
but the thing is, I'm aware that this is the same as any dinner. I don't know, Griff, when you're a kid with your folks, but like my son, when friends come over or used to come over before the socially distant situations arose, but when they'd come over, we'd have supper and then you just sit after supper and talk. It would baffle John. He'd be like, "There's toys. Hello. There's outside. There's a trampoline. What are you doing talking?
Certainly.
Why do old people just sit around and talk?" So in that, he was kind of excited about In the Neighbourhood as he was about DKL. But after a certain point, he goes, are you guys just going to talk? Like, aren't you going to do anything? Where's the stunts? So the both of them were suitably uninterested pretty quickly. It's like, well, if it doesn't have explosions or something for kids, what am I watching for?
I definitely get that. It was the worst was when you went to dinner to somebody else's house and they had the trampoline or the pool. They lived by the river, and my parents just wanted to sit around and talk. I would go, "Why else did we come here? What other reason are we here for than the tramp?"
And then they go outside and play and come back and go, "Are you still talking?"
That's right.
It was baffling.
It's
to
been
them.
7
Yeah.
years and I'm 4.
Yes.
I got to tell you, sometimes when I'm talking after a meal, I feel guilty doing it when there are kids around, because I thought that when I was a kid. I was like, the old people are talking. And so now when I've become that person, I seriously, in my heart, I'm apologizing to children everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something I don't know, Karen. Did you ever bring Dave out to breakfast on a breakfast series photo Facebook date?
Twice.
Ooh.
We had breakfast at the Harley Diner one time, and I can't remember where we had it the second time, but we had an excellent Harley Diner breakfast.
We did. It was awesome.
Where's Harley Diner? What's Harley Diner?
Inglewood.
Inglewood?
Just as you go
Right
into
by
Inglewood
the-
on the right-hand side.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Okay, great.
Please tell me it's still there. I haven't gone to Inglewood in 6 months.
I don't know.
I think so. It's embarrassing for me as the host of a podcast called The Breakfast Dish for someone to bring up a popular breakfast area and me go, "What?"
Okay, well, let me give you a new one. We were just 4th Street Northwest around 25th Avenue at Sawa, S-A-W-A, new. It's like a kitschy store with breakfast. It's brand new. I'm just going to pitch it. There you go. It was very good.
There you are. And you heard it here first. Thank you, Karen Johnson Diamond.
Now you know about one that nobody else did except me.
Following the theme, of breakfast. What would you say? What would you say, Dave, was the biggest? Because I didn't know you also had a news job before breakfast television. So what would you say was the biggest difference between your previous news job and then things like breakfast television, Dave Kelly Live? Like what was there another step you had to take on those kind of shows?
Yeah. I think what happened when I went on to breakfast television, although it was a fairly casual and I don't say goofy, but it breakfast television that was kind of in the mainstream. So you had to do things like you had to hit the top and the bottom of the hour for news, weather, and traffic. You had to hit the quarter after and the quarter to, and you had to be aware of audience, and it couldn't just be, here's things I'm interested in. It had to be, okay, it was a bit more corporate, maybe,
Sure,
for lack of a better term. I had to know what was going on in the news, which I was terrible at caring very much about. And I had to know different issues to debate, which I hated doing. But yeah, you just had to sort of know the game a bit more.
Interesting.
I am going to reveal, without revealing any names or anything, I remember emailing Dave once because I was watching him on Breakfast TV. And he had a guest on from a store that sold something really boring. And he had to ask this person all about the really boring thing his store sold. And this guest was just not the optimal guest. This guest had, 2-word answers, and was sending out vibes of I'm too important to be here. And you know what? He could have farted, and Dave just made him sound so good and made him look so good. And he was on for 2 segments before and after a commercial break. And I was like, how did you do that? And he goes, he was only supposed to have 1 segment. So your ability to honor your guests has always been something that I have admired you for like crazy.
Well, that's sweet of you to say. And sort of what I learned is even the most inane topic can be really interesting for 4 minutes. And it's not even as a put down, but if somebody came on the show to talk about making their own underwear, well, actually, that's too interesting. If they came on the show to talk about...
That's too cool.
Right? If there's but the person was always very excited in some way, even if they're terrible communicators or, like you say, have the attitude a little off. Whatever it is that they're selling or being, or that's something that really matters to them. So trying to key into their interest and their love is what that was about, is to say, I got to find the thing in them that makes that interesting. Now, would we want to do a whole show about it? Would you want to do a season of it? No. But if you can make it, you can make just about anything work for 4 minutes.
You probably sold a lot of those items for that young man. But I do remember, one of the best things I ever learned from you is Dave and I hosted the Betty Mitchell Awards together early on in the Betty Mitchell Awards. And I was so nervous. And he was in like the height of breakfast television. And I was just like, and Dave said, I'm going to give you the best piece of advice. Nobody came here to see you. They came here to see who won the awards. Because, I'm all thinking I have to make jokes in between award presentations or whatever. And Dave's like, people want you to move it along. Just move it along. And it was the best piece of advice I've ever had.
I really like the philosophy that anything can be interesting for 4 minutes, especially if you have no prior knowledge of it beforehand. What was that? What was that show that Inside Out did? Magpie Project? Am I right about that, Karen?
Magpie Treasure Talks. It was, I don't know if it was Inside Out. It was the members of Inside Out and Ellen Close. Yeah. Just to fill you in, Dave, if you don't know, there was a wonderful show Ellen Close and Cole Shaky put together called Magpie Treasure Talks, which were little mini TED Talks from the point of view of delivered by people that were right now experiencing homelessness or had some point lived in the homeless community. And I went to see the show and I was thinking, okay, so they're going to talk about, sleeping bags and how to find a warm vent. And one guy was talking about what he was an expert on, which was Tuvan throat singing. And one guy was talking digital photography. And one guy was talking pirate lore, like why is it called the Jolly Roger? And it was fascinating. And that's exactly how I felt after watching this gentleman be introduced by Dave. I had no idea that boring product could be so 4 minutes interesting.
I find that's the case. That is the case with everything. It doesn't play in the Trump world as easily, or I say Trump as if he owns it. He doesn't. But I hope not. It doesn't get people angry. And therefore, it has a hard time competing with anger because rage is so much more interesting. I don't know if you ever, I just think of that when I was teaching or when you're a kid at school, when one of the teachers lost it, man, that's interesting. That's
Totally.
way more interesting than anything they ever taught us. So I'm aware that rage is really compelling. So how do you work against that is a little bit of a dance, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea of providing a platform or a community or an event to go to that kind of doesn't disregard the importance or the gravity of the issues, but brings it to more of like a centering, grounding location, or at least offers an entirely new perspective, I think is a very noble goal, especially in the times of very tumultuous change.
Yeah.
For the good or better.
Dave Kelly, The Noble Goal, an autobiography.
Yeah, well, and you know what people love to watch? Not Noble. They don't give a fuck about Noble. No, and the truth is, if you started a theater company, you both understand theater. If you said, we're going to do shows that are important and noble and worthy of these times we're living through today, wow, will you ever get nobody to go?
It's true.
So it has to be entertaining. And I used to say that about DKL or anything we did. I said it has to first and foremost be entertaining. It does. If it's got a great message, no one gives a shit. It's got to be entertaining. And if that's entertaining, start there and then see where you go.
Dave brings his friends on stage. Listen, no one's here to see you. Okay, we're gonna. I want laughs and that's it.
They're here to see me.
What's the name of the show?
Okay, so going back to the show, you said that you went until...
Oh, man, where are we?
You went until June 17th.
Or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
With a look at bringing it back.
Yes.
Is that happening? When is it happening?
Well, we're going to do something. When is this airing? When is this show going out?
This will be August 24th,
August
which
24th,
is today.
Monday. Oh, yeah, today, August 24th.
Today is August
Today,
24th.
Certainly.
Very
we
good.
all know that.
So we are going to do one today.
Whoa!
Yeah. I think around 10 o'clock today.
Griffin, can you go back an hour and release our podcast an hour before we're doing it right now so that people could listen to our podcast and then go over and watch Dave?
For this week, I could release the podcast at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
There we go. Double bill.
If you want. Or we can have people just flip back and forth and go, I don't understand what's going on right now.
It's like a director's cut.
Are they recorded, though? Like, are they kept? Can you get them on demand afterwards?
Yeah.
If you don't watch it live? Okay, well, then
Yeah.
if you don't get
Yeah.
to it, yeah. If you need to
100%.
sleep in, boy, then
Yeah.
Mommy understands.
Yeah, don't sweat it. Yes, exactly.
I'm just trying to. What's my mummy equivalent? Do I say boyo? What do I say?
I don't
Boy, kidlet.
Griffy Griff. What are you coming on with the same crew? The same 4 hosts?
Yeah, well, what we thought for this one is we'd say, let's just bring everyone back and say, how was your summer? So that's that's as much scripting as I've done, is to say, what's Russ been up to? I know he's been doing a bunch of work with Jan Arden. He's also been doing a bunch of recording. Recording is something you can still do in your studio and other studios. So he's done a lot of that. Mandy Stobo has been hard at work in the world of art. Jim Button, I don't know how much you know about Jim, but he has been battling cancer and it is terminal. And as I like to say, Jim has gone past his due date by about a year and a half. So every day is a great day. And we're just going to talk to him about how his summer's been and how his lungs are holding out and how the tumors are doing and how his heart is. So that'll be great.
Oh, man. Is there any guests you have pre-booked that you'd be willing to share as breaking news on the breakfast dish?
No, we're going to I don't want it to be other guests. I just want it to be us.
Nice.
I think I just want to check in and say, how's everyone doing? How's it been? If it was up to me, I wouldn't have guests very often, but I realize that guests help sort of sell things. But I think the 4 of them I wouldn't say me, but Mandy and Jim and Russ and I have enough stuff too that it's going on that it's kind of fun, but I do get that it's good to have other people.
Well, I mean, that is also a very good collection of people in terms of like how engaging the 4 of you are and how engaging the 4 of you are like together. Like your chemistry is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Griffin, at some point, our podcast will be so famous that we won't need the Dave Kellys to come on here. It'll just be, that'll never happen.
Exactly.
That's right. I can't wait for this podcast. We won't talk to anybody. We just have what we're
ourselves.
doing. It'll just be about us.
But you know what? If we get famous
That's the
enough,
goal.
we might be able to get a bad portrait done by Mandy. That is sort of like, you have made it in Calgary when someone has, like, she has done someone's bad portrait. They're so good. Kevin Rothery has one.
Yeah.
The mayor has one. I'm sure Dave has one.
I almost got a bad portrait from Mandy
What?
Stobo because Mandy Stobo was going to be a guest on the show that I hosted for Shaw TV and NUTV Studio 315. which eventually didn't. It eventually didn't pan out. But she was going to do a bad
So
portrait
close.
live on the air. So which I've always thought about. I'm gonna go get one eventually.
You're owed then, I really think.
That's
Mandy's
not how it
listening, I
works.
think. Oh,
That's not.
okay.
Go get her, Mom. Go tell that your boy needs a portrait. Dave, if people want to catch up on within the half an hour that we're giving them between the release of this podcast episode and your new In the Neighbourhood episode, where do they catch up on all the archived episodes?
It's all on Dave Kelly Live on Facebook. And I think there's a YouTube channel. We did a YouTube channel for the 3 or 4 people on earth like my wife who are not on Facebook and refuse to be. But those ones get like 4 views. And Blythe is not one of them. She's like, I'm sorry I can't watch a show on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. And I said, I put on YouTube. Yeah.
That sounds great for people.
YouTube, huh? Interesting. Yeah. I gotta go.
I'm
I
actually
gotta
busy.
look after the kids. I can't
the
spend
whole
so much
school
time.
thing. Why is the school calling you daddy? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, it is on YouTube for sure. I did see it on
Yeah.
YouTube. There's at least
Yes.
1 thumbs up from me.
Hey,
Thank you very
there
much.
you go.
welcome.
You're a good person, Karen.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
And Dave, I'm sure people already know, but where do they find you on social media? Do you have personal accounts?
I do on Instagram and all of the, it's not that J. David Kelly is how you find me, but most people just sort of search around and find me. I have this love-hate relationship with social media. I totally get it, and it's worth it. And my challenge is I don't often find myself happier when I leave social media than when I started. So I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's such
And
a good observation.
There's that one. The other one I find is, and this has come up as other parents, you don't have to sweat it so much because you have children who are so old. Griff is just old, mature, wise,
Wait,
intelligent.
children? Do I have one I don't know about? Because all I know
There's
is
a
Griffin.
few.
Okay.
There's a few, yeah. I've met
Griffin
them. They're great.
is so captivating. He's like 6 other
Right,
people
okay.
is what it is.
Okay, that's
But
very kind.
we go through a lot of angst around screens and screen time. I don't even like to say screen time because then it implies some sort of fight. I grew up with no television because of the same sort of philosophy that my parents had, which is it's the devil's work, so stay off it. So we're not even going to have one in the house. But I just don't know. So back to social media. If I'm checking my Twitter feed and responding to whatever during the day, John sees me on the phone, Tess sees me on the phone, and then says, can I just go play games on the iPad? Or can I go set up my own account? I'm like, I'd rather you didn't. So it's a dance.
Yeah.
I find the whole thing a dance.
That's a kinship that I did not know that I shared with you, Dave Kelly. When I was a kid, I was actually subjected to screen time because I played much too much video games. So my parents would allow me like 2 or 3 hours every weekday, which is still a lot, which I don't know if my little brain realized how much was a lot. But I eventually worked out a deal that every minute that I spent outside
Or doing any sort of physical activity.
translated to to Xbox time, which is why I joined the badminton team in junior high. That's exactly the reason.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Well,
part.
and
Whoops.
it's a funny because my brother Rob, who is also, he goes, I make my living on a computer and with video, so I just tell my kid, watch it when you want, don't watch it when you don't want. And I don't even think my niece would know what the word screen time words mean. Like, that's just not, she just uses it when she uses it. So I just don't know. I'm befuddled by it.
Yeah.
Well, it is the way the world is now. And I know I'm 53 and I'm just like, when I was your age, but I find myself telling other parents, I go, you know what, though, that stuff just wasn't around when we were kids. So it is the way of the world, and the kids become like world champion Xbox gamers and make millions of dollars because it's brilliant hand-eye coordination. Did I talk about this already?
Yeah.
Did I talk about Marshall Viel in Christmas Carol on this podcast?
No.
Marshall
Or
Viel,
maybe.
He played Christmas Present this year at Christmas Carol, and he was on this gigantic rolling structure. He was 8 feet in the air, and he drove it by himself with one little tiny toggle in his right hand. It was just one little thing with the thumb, and he was so good at it and never fell off the stage. And I said, did you play video games growing up? And he went, yeah, I did. And I went, well, then you thank your mother, because If she hadn't let you do that, you never would have been able to do what you're doing right now on this structure without killing people.
When you said it was the way of the world, I thought you were going to go back on something that Dave said and go, and it is the way of the devil, and he's our only hope for salvation, and we need to move forward. Hail Satan.
Apple and Mac are the way of the devil.
We need to kill. We need to sacrifice some goats and draw the pentagram and not tell anyone.
I think we're good then. I think we're set.
Okay, no Satan references. None on this podcast.
No.
Neil Diamond, yes.
That's
Satan,
it.
no.
I thought that. I was about to say that's the same
They're
thing,
the
but
same thing.
that's just too easy.
Yeah.
Too
Yes.
easy.
Kelly,
Dave, Dad.
redeem yourself right
I'll
now.
be what I am. Ba-da-da-da. I'm a Satan man.
See?
Dave, it is a tradition that we bring up Neil Diamond every day on this podcast. So what is your favorite Neil Diamond song? And if you say Sweet Caroline, I'm turning off my mic.
When I was a kid, we had a Neil Diamond cassette that had him doing a cover of Mr. Bojangles that I really liked. And I don't
Me
know if it's
too.
because for a while, I know when I was learning the guitar, people said, whatever you do, don't bother learning Mr. Bojangles because everyone plays it and it's like playing Smoke on the Water. People will throw up as soon as you start. But it's a great tune. And I remember I liked his version. And I have I went through a fairly serious Neil Diamond phase growing up, and he's an amazing. Did you see the concert when he pretended to play the steel drums?
Yes.
It was, and he was on the steel drums, big band, and he grabs the mallets and he starts to play, and he's like, and you realize, holy cow, Neil Diamond's killer at this, and he's going like this, and then eventually lifts his hands up, and it's music's still going. You realize it's some idiot on the keyboard playing it, but he was really impressive.
Why even pretend if you're going to lift
So
the
good,
mallets up?
he's so good.
Fun fact, probably at that same concert, Neil Diamond introduced Calgary to the new musical called Les Mis by singing I Dream a Dream. I dreamed a dream. Is it Fontaine? What's the character's name that sings
One of
that
the
one?
ladies.
The
I
lead
don't know,
female.
You're the theater nerd.
The lead female in Les Mis.
Yeah.
And he was like, I have to introduce this song to you. And he sang it. And then when I heard it in, the musical, I was like, oh, bad choice, Neil. Bad choice, honey.
Another tradition we have here, Dave, is we like to end the show or start to close out the show with Karen making up a breakfast-themed question because she's a professional improviser. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
If your kids could have 3 things of their choice on the plate every morning for breakfast, what would they be?
Fruit Loops, waffles with whipped cream and syrup, and then another bowl of Fruit Loops.
It sounds like you, Griff.
Yeah, I have that right now. That sounds great.
You know what John asked for dessert yesterday?
What?
Tell me.
Fruit Loops
Oh, man.
for supper. He's like, hey, what if we had Fruit Loops for dessert? Dad, huh? What about that? It's sugary.
How about this? And it's quick for you, Dad. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so it's actually quick in the kitchen.
He and I believe that breakfast for supper is a good concept, John and I.
Yeah. And I have the same theory.
Thank you.
Yeah, since moving into the new place, I started shopping. I've kind of leveled out on it recently, but like the first couple times I went shopping, I kind of listened to my younger self in terms of like, I've never done a round of groceries that I promised myself that I would do when I was 9. So I got like 4 different kinds of sugary cereal. I got like s'more Pop-Tarts, or I got like fruit gushers. I was like, yeah, I'm 11. Loud in the supermarket with my mask
As you
on.
should.
Griffin, now that you're, 24 and more responsible, what did you have for breakfast today?
I had eggs.
Eggs.
Are you lying?
No, I had eggs with basil and garlic and some cheese.
Oh,
That's
you
my
make that.
it's
That's
my
so
go-to
tasty.
breakfast nowadays.
I had fresh fruit. What did you have there, Dave?
I had yogurt and blueberries with granola and a little bit of cinnamon and just a bit of crystal meth on top. It's very nice.
Oh,
You have to.
great.
Yeah. Crystal light, crystal meth go hand in hand.
I don't know. I don't know why I decided to throw that in, but I did.
You always listen. Crystal meth is always an impromptu decision. Yeah, you got to sprinkle it.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you very much for coming to join us. We're getting close to our wrap-up time.
I sure wish I said something of interest, but if I didn't, tune in next time for something way better.
Well, you threw crystal meth in there, so that piques my interest.
Good.
I think we mentioned his online show at some point in
At
this
some point.
podcast, didn't we?
No,
I think it's in there.
I'll put them in the links and the whatever.
Oh, okay, good.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. The Breakfast Dish has been made possible by the Calgary Arts Development Authority, the Rozsa Foundation, and the Calgary Foundation. The intro music you just heard and the outro music you're about to hear is by Alexandra Cowman, and all graphic design has been done by Morgan Ermter. Do all your ratings. Give us some 5 stars. Give us some subscribe likes. Here is, Karen, what are your social medias?
Yeah, this is a segment. I have some other things going on. Oh, wait, you wanted my social medias?
I was going to do it before the event. You go.
I'm going to do the events. This is our new segment, What Else You Can Find Online This Week. Okay, this one sounds fun. The Canmore Summer Theatre Festival, presented by the Pine Tree Players. They're presenting The Hobbit, and it's gone digital, but I watched the trailer. If you go to their YouTube page, it looks very inventive. Very similar, like they have the kind of work that Dave has on his show. Like people actually know what they're doing on that show. And tickets are by donation, minimum donation of $15. Watch it on YouTube and search Canmore Summer Theatre Festival.
I was worried you were going to have a less description because you did one of the parent things of trying to be nice and going, it looks inventive. It looks like...
No.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a doctor. He wants to be an artist, and he's very inventive.
No. They're doing voiceovers of actual filming outside. It looks very cool. And I do think that Caroline Russell King and Louis B. Hobson went to see it and praised it. Okay, there's a great panel discussion happening on August 25th. That would be tomorrow, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Obsidian Theatre, in association with Cahoots Theatre, is hosting a discussion on YouTube called Black Magic. Shaw Festival Associate Artistic Director Kimberly Rappersad is having a discussion with the heads of Canada's most prominent theatre companies with Black leadership. So this happens on Obsidian's YouTube channel. Lots of things on YouTube, Dave. You know, your wife wasn't wrong about that.
You're really missing out on the mecca that is YouTube.
Every Saturday, the Kinkanauts are doing in-person improv classes at Princess Island Park. 2 hours, 2 meters apart, with masks, without walls. Pre-register at kinkanauts.com. And this one's very different, but I want to introduce people to it.
All right.
September 1st, there is an improvised murder mystery in American Sign Language. It's happening September 1st at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Go look on Facebook for Murder Mystery ASL Improv. And the exciting thing is you get to pick who you think the murderer was, or you get to decide who the murderer is. So
that's good.
What a wealth of things online.
Whoa.
Hey, Griff?
I love how when justice works that way. Yeah.
Whoa.
I do find a lot of these things on the Rozsa Foundation's arts calendar. So that's the other thing you can do is the Rozsa Foundation website and look at their arts calendar because they have all sorts of Albertan digital arts happening there.
I tried a dad joke out the other day that I was very proud of and no one laughed. So I thought I could try it again here. So
okay, go.
Do it here.
So I'm at this morning. It was not this morning, but a morning a little while ago. I pull the milk out and it's not good. And I say to my 2 children, I go, spoiler alert, I don't think this milk's any good. And they were like, I don't get it.
What made it for me is that you were already laughing at yourself by the time you said alert.
Right? Isn't that pretty funny? I think that's a pretty good piece of humor right there. Nothing. Not even a blink. Kids. Lame kids. Spoiler alert, there's something wrong with this milk.
Listen, we've done all of our outro duties, and now as majestic as the intro was, it's time for Dave Kelly to give us an outro to the breakfast dish. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the dish we call the breakfast dish. Griffin is going to be back with Mama Bear next time. We'll see you then. And a special thank you to our special guest, Dave Kelly. Dumber than a stick, but he's nice enough. See you soon, everyone.
There's part of me that just wants to take that clip and put it at the end of every episode. I don't care who the guest is. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bop, 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 bop. This has been The Breakfast Dish.